afternoon, everyone. Merci Cho, thank you very much for joining us here today. My name is Michael McLeod, and I'm the Member of Parliament for the Northwest Territories. I would first like to acknowledge that those of us attending today's proceedings in person are gathered on traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Nation. And I'm pleased to be starting off today's exciting announcement and to be joined by colleagues from the Government of Canada and the Government of Northwest Territories. Both of our governments are focused on addressing affordability and improving the lives of Northerners. And through our hard work and our partnership, we're making real progress in communities right across the Northwest Territories. And today's announcement builds on that progress and represents a transformative investment in the NBT and families in the North that will ensure a brighter future for our youth. With that said, I would like now to turn it over to the Right Honourable Prime Minister to make today's historic announcement. Thank you.
Merci, Joe, Mike. What a pleasure to be here today, joined with Ministers Gould, Minister Vandal, and MP Michael McLeod. It's great to be here with Premier Cochrane as well from the Northwest Territories, as well as Minister Simpson, who's joining us virtually. Les enfants méritent d'avoir le meilleur départ dans la vie possible. Les garderies sont essentielles, mais font aussi une grosse partie du budget des familles. Les mères ne devraient pas avoir à choisir entre le bien-être de leurs enfants ou leur propre carrière. Mais c'est exactement ce qui se passe trop souvent dans les familles à travers le pays. C'est pour ça qu'on a pris la décision d'aller de l'avant avec une solution. Today, we're delivering on positive change for families right across the Northwest Territories, adding to the great news of signed agreements right across the country. From the very beginning, we sat down to talk childcare with the government of the Northwest Territories and have had, over the past many months, extremely productive discussions that were always focused on not just the goals shared by families from coast to coast to coast of affordable, high-quality childcare spaces, but recognizing the particular challenges that come with living in the North. That's why we worked very, very hard to tackle those unique challenges. And I'm very pleased to announce that we have reached an agreement today that will have a huge impact on families across the territory. By this coming March, childcare fees will be cut in half for families across the Northwest Territories. And within 5 years, there'll be an average of $10 a day for childcare everywhere across the territory. Families in Yellowknife will save up to $9,500 a year with this new agreement. We're also going to create about 300 new spaces and, importantly, support the workers by creating a wage grid and a certification process for evaluators. Because quality early learning and childcare educators are at the heart of delivering the quality of learning and care that kids right across the country and in the Northwest Territories deserve. Childcare is good for parents, it's good for kids, but it's also good for the economy. This is the thing that was made so clear to so many families over the course of this pandemic as people had to stay home, as people realized the challenges that come with having young kids and not having good places to send them. That's why we're there. Better start for kids, more support for moms and families, and better growth in our economy as more women can join the workforce. Avec le coût de la vie qui augmente, on va continuer d'être là pour les familles de la classe moyenne à travers le pays. On rend les garderies plus abordables, avec plus de places en garderie pour tout le monde. 9 provinces and 2 territories have now reached agreements with the federal government. And I can say, based on my conversations with Premier PJ Achiaguk of Nunavut just yesterday, that we're looking very good to move forward on an agreement on childcare with the 3rd territory, Nunavut, early in the new year. We are ready to work together with provinces and territories right across the country to deliver $10 a day, high-quality childcare for every family in Canada. Last night, I had a meeting with all the premiers in a First Minister's meeting to talk about how we were going to make sure we're keeping families safe from COVID-19 as we enter this holiday season. It's the last thing families want to be dealing with right now, but COVID, in the presence of Omicron, is back with a vengeance. So as much as we don't want to, as much as we want it to be in the past, we're having to step up together to support Canadians as we all make the right choices to have safe and happy holidays, but also to make sure that as we get into the new year, we're preventing our loved ones and we're preventing our healthcare systems for being affected and overwhelmed. J'ai parlé au Premier ministre Horgan, le président du Conseil de la Fédération, et je lui ai demandé de rassembler tous les premiers ministres. Et la situation est sérieuse. Et il fallait qu'on agisse. Donc, in this 35th First Ministers meeting we held last night, we talked about ensuring as many Canadians as possible are vaccinated, including children and with boosters. My 7-year-old just got vaccinated a couple of weeks ago, and I can tell you I'm feeling a lot better now that I know he is safer with the arrival of Omicron. And I know families across the country are realizing that it's time to get kids vaccinated, but it's also time to get boosters. As I approach my 50th birthday in a week or so, don't remind me and don't laugh, Caroline, I'm looking forward to getting my booster. And new changes in Ontario means I might even be able to get it before my birthday. But the important thing is, we know that a 3rd dose of an mRNA vaccine keeps you significantly safer from COVID, from catching it, but mostly from the serious impacts of getting it. We want to avoid hospitalizations. We want to avoid overwhelming our healthcare system. That's what we're facing as a potential challenge right now. So as the Deputy Prime Minister said yesterday in the Economic and Fiscal Update, the federal government will continue to be there for provinces and territories with rapid tests, with supports for improved ventilation, with therapeutics, and yes, with more boosters. We have enough boosters in this country to ensure that everyone can get a 3rd shot. So please, as soon as your province or territory makes it available for your age group, book an appointment, go keep yourself and your loved ones safe. Canadians know how to do this, and we will continue to do the right thing to keep our loved ones safe and to ensure that the impact of COVID doesn't drag down all of us once again. C'est difficile et décourageant de voir la situation s'empirer et les cas monter. Alors, ça demeure très important de suivre les consignes de santé publique. Et donc, malheureusement, le gouvernement fédéral a pris la décision de recommander à tout le monde de ne pas voyager pour des raisons non essentielles. Now is not the time to travel. And I know after the year we've had, after the almost 2 years we've had, people were really looking forward to getting away, to not having to think about COVID. But the reality is we have to think about COVID. Omicron means we have to be even more careful, and that's why we've raised the travel advisory to advising against all non-essential travel. Earlier, we announced new measures, the advisory against non-essential international travel, and ramping up testing at the border for people coming home. We have to be careful during this holiday season. get your kids their shots. We've secured enough of those for everyone. For adults, we've secured enough boosters, so when it's your turn, please get it. And take a moment this holiday season to reflect on your loved ones, on family, on this time where we gather with fewer people than perhaps we would have liked, but celebrate those closest to you by doing the one thing that matters more than just about anything else right now, which is keeping yourself and your loved ones as safe as possible. And as a federal government, we will continue to be there to have your backs. Very happy to be here today. Thank you all very much. I'm now very pleased to pass it over to Premier Cochrane. Carolyn.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's a sincere pleasure to be here in Ottawa to make this announcement. The funding agreement that is announced today will help to transform the early learning and childcare system in the Northwest Territories. The cost of living in the Northwest Territories is significantly higher than in Southern Canada, and through this agreement, we'll be able to help families in the Territory. This agreement means that families will have access to more affordable childcare, and in some instances, access to childcare spaces for the very first time. Some of our communities do not yet have licensed early learning and childcare programs. Over time, this agreement will help us improve access for all children in the Northwest Territories. One of the best investments that governments can make to influence a child's life is to provide families with the option to access high-quality early learning in their community. Positive early childhood experiences support children for success later in life. People always thought that childcare was a women's issue, but COVID brought it to the forefront. COVID showed that childcare is not just a women's issue, it's an issue for all of us. The economy needs to have childcare spaces, it needs to have quality childcare. My background is in social work, and for a long time, we've known in the field that early childhood development is critical to ensure that children have the success so that they can succeed as they grow older in life. And this agreement provides us the opportunity to get there. The government of the Northwest Territories and the government of Canada both recognize that quality early learning and childcare programs play an important role in promoting the social, emotional, physical, and cognitive development of young children and can support positive lifelong benefits. Improving early learning and childcare requires our government to transform its approach, and this will take some time. Moving towards a robust, mature, and sustainable system that meets the needs of communities, families, and children require us to work with partners, including Indigenous and community governments, and of course the federal government. This means building and improving infrastructure, providing early childhood educators with post-secondary and professional learning opportunities, and providing funding to support sustainable, quality licensed early learning and childcare programs. The Northwest Territories has unique needs for early learning and childcare. This agreement supports culturally relevant, inclusive early learning and childcare programming across the territory. The federal government has recognized this, and we appreciate their willingness to work with us. I look forward to continuing the work with the federal government as we transform the NWT early learning and childcare system together to ensure the needs of northern families and children are met. It's sad in some ways that COVID brought childcare to the forefront, but it is at the forefront. And it's imperative, as I say, that quality early learning is afforded to all of our children. This is not a cultural thing, it's not a jurisdictional thing. It's a program that will help all Canadian families, and it's about time that we're here. So I do want to thank the federal government for their agreement and for willing to recognize the needs of quality childcare for children throughout Canada. On that, I'd like to turn it over to Minister Gould, who will provide remarks as well. Thank you again. Oops.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much, Premier, for those remarks, and I think for highlighting the importance of childcare, no matter what. I am joining you today from the unceded traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation. There is no question that Canada needs an early learning and childcare system from coast to coast to coast. Des services d'apprentissage et de garde des jeunes enfants abordables ne sont pas excellents seulement pour les enfants et leurs parents, ils sont excellents pour notre économie. Parce que si les services de garde sont fermés ou tout simplement non disponibles, les parents ne peuvent pas aller travailler. Affordable early learning and childcare is even more crucial today, as we work to address labor shortages, grow our economy, and support Canadian businesses all across the country, which is why it is truly a pleasure to join the Prime Minister today and celebrate this historic moment for the Northwest Territories. I also want to acknowledge my colleagues, Minister Vandal and MP MacLeod, as well as Premier Cochrane and Education Minister R.J. Simpson, with whom I worked very closely. Aujourd'hui, les territoires du Nord-Ouest se joignent à 10 autres provinces et territoires dans la mise sur pied de notre système pan-canadien. Nous aidons à réduire d'ici 5 ans les frais en services de garde réglementés à $10 par jour en moyenne. Thanks to this agreement, Northwest Territories families will see fee reductions of 50% on average for regulated childcare spaces by the end of 2022, and the creation of 300 new regulated not-for-profit public and home-based childcare spaces over the next 5 years, which includes 70 spaces to be created this year funded through existing federal investments. And as I mentioned, the goal is to bring fees for regulated childcare down to $10 per day on average within the next 5 years. This will have a significant positive impact for families in the Northwest Territories who are currently paying an average of $38 a day. C'est assez évident que sans accès à des services de garde d'enfants, trop de parents ne peuvent pas participer au marché du travail. Notre plan vise à stimuler la croissance économique et à soutenir des familles et des enfants partout au pays. Nous savons qu'un système pan-canadien soutient aussi le travail extraordinaire des éducateurs et des éducatrices de la petite enfance, qui jouent un rôle central dans les soins à nos enfants tous les jours. And so I would like to make special mention of our early childhood educators, who play such an important role, not only for caring for our children, but also for preparing them for a life of learning. And particularly through the pandemic, we relied so extensively on our early childhood educators to care for our children and to ensure that many of us could continue in the workforce. This historic agreement includes significant investments to attract and retain early childhood educators and give them the tools and resources they need to succeed. Today's agreement with the Northwest Territories is another important step on the path to ensuring all families have access to high-quality, affordable, flexible, and inclusive early learning and childcare. And as the Minister of Families, Children, and Social Development, and a mom, I am thrilled to be here with the Northwest Territories to announce this important agreement that will support families and give children the best start in life. J'aimerais me remercier toutes les personnes qui ont participé à l'annonce d'aujourd'hui et en particulier le ministre Simpson, avec qui j'ai eu le privilège de travailler au cours des dernières semaines. On that note, I'll turn it over to Minister Simpson to say a few words. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you very much, Minister Gould. I'm honored to join virtually today as we announce the signing of the Canada-wide Early Learning and Childcare Agreement. This is a historic moment for the residents of the Northwest Territories. With the support of the Government of Canada, we are embarking on the development of an early learning and childcare system that will meet the needs of families in all communities across the NWT and will play a pivotal role in the long-term social and economic prosperity of our territory. Participation in early childhood programs is proven to have lifelong positive impacts on children's well-being. The Canada-wide agreement provides funding that will give families greater access to licensed childcare, both in terms of availability and affordability. This access will give more children the ability to grow and thrive in enriched and supportive environments during the most critical period of their development. At the same time, it will allow parents and caregivers to pursue new education and employment opportunities. There are a number of important factors required for successful early learning and childcare systems, including availability, affordability, inclusivity, and quality. This agreement will allow us to address each of these factors in a way that is suited to our northern context. The Northwest Territories is unique and diverse. The majority of our population are Indigenous. We have 11 official languages, French, English, and 9 Indigenous languages. Our early learning and childcare system must be culturally responsive and reflect the Indigenous worldviews, cultures, and languages of each of our 33 communities. The support provided by the Government of Canada through this agreement enables us to work with Indigenous governments and organizations to develop a culturally appropriate system. The signing of this agreement is a momentous occasion. I have to thank Minister Gould, her predecessor, Minister Hussein, and the Prime Minister for recognizing the unique circumstances and needs of the Northwest Territories and ensuring that those needs are reflected in our agreement. This is only the beginning, and I look forward to advancing this critical work so we can provide parents and caregivers with the support they need and give children the best possible start in life. Thank you, merci, and masicho. Now I'd like to turn it back over to the Prime Minister.
Thank you. We'll now be taking questions, starting with questions in the room.
Hi, Prime Minister, Premier, Ministers. You were talking about getting more people into childcare. You're talking about creating these spaces. Our colleagues at CBC North in Yellowknife were talking about how there's already a long lineup for childcare spaces in the north. So I'm wondering what specifically you're going to do to hire new care providers and how you're going to keep them in the north.
First of all, we recognized from the very beginning that while there was a common need right across the country, from coast to coast to coast, for affordable, high-quality childcare for every family, that the challenges on delivering those spaces and that affordability would vary from place to place. And nowhere does it vary more than recognizing the unique challenges to the north. That's why we sat down very carefully to make sure that, yes, the goals that we set out for all families in this country would be met. That is, within 5 years, $10 a day childcare, fees cut in half on average within the next year, increase in the number of spaces, and support for early childhood educators as a career, as a profession, with proper financing. We were able to sign an agreement for 300 more spaces in the north, which will alleviate some of the challenges. But I know Minister Simpson, Minister Gould, and the Premier herself weighed in directly to make sure that that would help people in the north. And to answer that more specifically, I'm very pleased to turn it over to Premier Cochrane. Carolyn.
Thank you. Before I got into politics, actually, I worked in the NGO field and with the Yellowknife Women's Society, and they do have a licensed childcare facility within that. It was a losing proposition. We knew that families needed to have childcare, but there was no money in it. We couldn't pay the staff appropriately. We couldn't get qualified people to work for the wages that we were paying. And so a lot of people would not take that on. We took it on because it was a cause. But this agreement actually allows us to pay people properly. It allows us to get the education so that people aren't just babysitting our children. They're actually looking at the development assets that they need to develop for children to thrive. So yes, before there's a long waiting list. And like I said, it was a losing proposition for people to get into, but this changes it. This is the turning point, and I am looking forward to, at the end of this year and at the end of 5 years, to see what will come. Thank you.
Can I ask you as a follow-up, Premier, it's one thing for, say, a family in Yellowknife, but for in a smaller community, when they've got children, say, in a day home, in a smaller day, how is this going to help them?
Well, like I said, every community is different, and our Prime Minister has addressed that and said that you can't just have a one-size-fits-all for everyone. So we have to take a look at each community. Some communities, like our capital city, Yellowknife, or our regional centres, have wait lists. So we will be looking at expanding those. Some don't even have a child care facility. It's their parents, their grandparents, et cetera, that are looking after these children. So by offering looking at the infrastructure that's needed, promoting it, making it a decent wage, that it isn't something that you do because you have no choices. This is going to be a profession for people. And so I am looking at within communities that are smaller, they'll see this as a viable economic benefit for themselves and for their communities going forward. Thank you.
Hi, Prime Minister. What's your message to Canadians planning to travel domestically over the holidays?
My message to Canadians, first and foremost, is I understand this sucks. Nobody wants to see Omicron arriving. No one wants to see the level of communicability we're seeing in communities, in provinces right across the country. This is not what anyone wanted for our Christmas holidays. Not much in the last year and a half has been what anybody wanted. Fortunately, we've seen what Canadians are capable of. We've seen what people are able to do to keep each other safe. And that's what we're going to stay focused on. Families, I know, will be thinking about how to keep their loved ones safe, keep themselves safe, but also how to have a bit of a moment of respite, a bit of healing, a bit of celebration at the holidays. Different provinces are bringing in different rules around what is allowed for gathering sizes and travel. The federal government regulates international travel, and we're giving people the advice that you really shouldn't travel. And anyone coming back to Canada or coming into Canada is going to face extra barriers on testing. We're going to try and test as many people as possible on arrival to try and keep case numbers down. But the reality is Omicron is here in Canada, and we have to cut down community spread. So Canadians will, I know, be continuing to demonstrate the thoughtfulness and the care that they've shown, not just for themselves and their loved ones, but also for healthcare workers and frontline workers and our healthcare systems that have come so close to being overwhelmed time and time again, to keep the case numbers low, to, yes, have a good holiday season, but to do it safely. Je comprends à quel point c'est vraiment plate d'être dans cette situation-ci. Il n'y a pas personne qui voulait qu'on fasse face au temps des fêtes avec une autre vague possible de la COVID-19. Le variant Omicron veut dire que malheureusement, il va falloir qu'on fasse encore très attention. Au gouvernement fédéral, on est en train de faire la recommandation de ne pas voyager à l'international. Et pour les Canadiens qui vont revenir, et les gens qui vont venir au Canada, on va faire tout ce qu'on peut pour faire des tests de dépistage le plus possible pour s'assurer de la sécurité des gens. Mais la réalité, c'est que Omicron est ici, en train de se transmettre dans nos communautés maintenant, et on a besoin de se rassembler en faisant attention, en étant là les uns pour les autres, en démontrant ce qu'on a pu faire pendant de longs mois, pendant 1 an et demi, c'est-à-dire de suivre les directives de santé publique, d'être là pour protéger ses proches, oui, mais aussi pour empêcher nos systèmes de santé et les héros qui travaillent depuis de longues années dans nos systèmes de santé d'être débordés par une nouvelle vague. Ce n'est pas ce qu'on voulait, c'est sûr. Mais ce qu'on veut encore moins que de devoir faire un peu plus attention au temps des fêtes, c'est de vivre un hiver où on serait débordé par encore une vague énorme de la COVID-19. Et je sais qu'on peut compter sur nos voisins, on peut compter sur les Canadiens pour encore une fois faire la bonne chose.
I want to ask you about Bill 21. You say Quebecers are asking serious questions about this law, but I want to know, are you just leaving the door open on a possible court intervention, or do you intend to actually go through with it?
I think the one thing to remember in all this is that Quebecers believe in a free and open society. Quebecers believe in freedom of expression. Quebecers believe in the equality of men and women. Quebecers believe in freedom of religion, freedom of conscience. And right now, a whole bunch of Quebecers are asking themselves questions about how, in a free society, someone could lose her job because of her religion. And they join the Quebecers who are right now challenging this law they see as unjust in the court process. And as I've said, as a federal government, we are watching very closely that court process, and we are leaving the door to intervening at an appropriate time to make sure that we're clearly standing up for people's rights. Je pense que la chose dont il faut se souvenir, c'est que les Québécois croient en une société ouverte et libre. Les Québécois défendent l'égalité des genres. Les Québécois défendent la liberté d'expression, la liberté de conscience, la liberté de religion. Il y a bien des Québécois qui sont en train de se poser des questions aujourd'hui sur comment, dans une société libre et ouverte, une jeune enseignante peut perdre sa job parce qu'elle est musulmane. Je pense que c'est des questions que beaucoup de gens se posent. Et donc, les Québécois sont en train d'entamer des processus judiciaires pour défendre leurs droits contre cette loi avec lesquels ils sont en désaccord. Et au gouvernement fédéral, on suit attentivement ces processus. Et comme je dis depuis plus que 3 ans maintenant, on ne ferme pas la porte à intervenir au bon moment dans les processus judiciaires.
Hi, it's Annie Bergeron-Oliver with CTV National News. You were just talking about the need to slow down community transmission of this new variant. I'm wondering why you decided to go with a restriction that's essentially asking people very nicely not to travel, rather than something harder like a 14-day quarantine that we had previously.
We know, first of all, that Omicron is here in Canada right now. Border measures are important, but they are not the only story. So yes, we are bringing in a travel advisory that will mean a lot of people will choose to cancel travel plans during the holidays. But it also is a clear indication of how seriously we take this new variant and the situation we're in. And that's why in my conversation with the premiers last night, I reiterated that we will be there as a federal government to support, including with the passage of Bill C2, Bill C3 in the House of Commons this week. We will be there to support areas that need to go back into lockdown. We will be there to support hard-hit industries. We will be there to help Canadians do the things that unfortunately we know all too well that we need to do to fight the spread of COVID-19. It's about all of us working together once again. It's about keeping safe, and that's what we're focused on.
My second question, the provinces are trying to rapidly accelerate the rate at which people get their booster shots. But one of the problems that a lot of provinces are facing is that vaccine clinics have really ramped down in recent months, and they don't have the staff either because of shortages or they just don't have the capacity. I'm wondering if any of the premiers in your discussions have asked for military assistance, and if that's something that you're willing to offer.
The first job we had was ensuring supply of boosters across the country, and I can tell you we have enough boosters for everyone who's eligible to get a booster shot. On the issue of enough professionals and people to get those jabs into arms as quickly as possible. As a federal government, we're always there to help. And as provinces put forward requests for extra help, we will be there as well, because we know that getting that third shot significantly helps in protecting against Omicron. Catching it, yes, but mostly protects against the serious impacts that lead to hospitalization.
Vous recommandez aux Canadiens de ne pas voyager à l'étranger. Recommandez-vous aux étrangers de ne pas voyager au Canada? Et pourquoi ne pas tout simplement interdire tous les voyages internationaux, sauf ceux jugés essentiels?
Tout d'abord, ce qu'on a vu, c'est que d'amener des interdictions de voyage pour les étrangers, pour les Américains, même pour les Canadiens, est extrêmement difficile. Il y a toujours des cas exceptionnels, il y a toujours des familles qui ont vraiment besoin de se voir, il y a toujours des situations qui exigent un peu de compassion. Et on a vu que même si ça a très bien fonctionné dans le passé, ça nous a permis d'avoir une pandémie moins pire et moins grave que bien d'autres pays, malgré toutes les tragédies qu'on a vécues. On est dans une situation où Omicron se propage tellement rapidement qu'il est déjà présent dans tout le Canada, il est déjà présent un peu partout à travers le monde, et on doit concentrer nos ressources maintenant sur la protection contre la transmission communautaire. Alors, on trouve que de recommander fortement de ne pas voyager, d'amener des mesures de dépistage supplémentaires aux aéroports, va permettre de faire notre part pour les frontières, mais de laisser aussi des ressources pour appuyer les provinces dans leur lutte contre la transmission communautaire qui est le grand danger maintenant, surtout quand les gens ont certainement l'intention de se rassembler pour les temps des fêtes. Il faut le faire de façon attentive, il faut faire attention, il faut, oui, qu'on utilise plus de dépistage rapide, mais nous allons être là pour essayer d'appuyer les Canadiens pendant que les Canadiens font ce qu'ils savent comment faire. On n'est plus au début de la pandémie. Les gens ont de l'expérience maintenant. Ils savent un peu plus ce que ça prend pour se protéger les uns les autres. Ils ne veulent plus le faire. On est tanné de devoir le faire. Mais je sais que pour ces temps des fêtes, les gens vont plus faire attention.
Vous vous êtes dit choqué et déçu de voir une femme musulmane perdre sa charge d'enseignante parce qu'elle tenait à porter un signe religieux en contravention avec la loi sur la laïcité de l'État québécois. Mais comme premier ministre du Canada, que pouvez-vous faire pour l'aider aujourd'hui?
Bien, tout d'abord, ça fait plusieurs années que j'exprime haut et fort mon désaccord avec la loi 21. Je trouve qu'une société qui se veut libre et ouverte ne devrait pas légiférer sur ce qu'une femme porte ou ne porte pas selon sa religion, ou un homme d'ailleurs. On est une société laïque au Canada, au Québec. On ne questionne pas si un policier peut être musulman ou juif ou chrétien ou n'importe quoi. On accepte que le professionnalisme de cette personne-là et de sa formation va lui permettre d'agir de la bonne façon. De dire qu'il faut légiférer sur une laïcité individuelle, que la laïcité de l'État et de nos structures, de notre société n'est pas assez forte pour résister à un signe visible, je ne suis pas et je n'ai jamais été d'accord avec ça. Mais ce n'est pas mon opinion qui compte. Autant que l'opinion et la perspective des Québécois qui commencent à voir que ce projet de loi provincial est en train d'avoir une conséquence réelle pour un individu, pour une communauté, pour une école, pour des enfants, quand elle perd sa job à cause de sa religion. Et ce processus de contestation judiciaire se fait de façon tout à fait appropriée et légitime par des Québécois qui sont eux-mêmes en train de dire cette loi provinciale n'est pas une avec laquelle je suis d'accord.
Bonjour. Concernant les ententes sur les garderies, il y a des organismes francophones à l'extérieur du pays, hors Québec, qui vous accusent de ne pas avoir mis des clauses linguistiques ou de s'assurer que les francophones vont avoir leur place. Je voulais savoir comment est-ce que vous allez vous assurer qu'ils vont pouvoir avoir leur place selon leur poids démographique?
Bien, je peux vous dire que c'était une préoccupation pour nous dès le début des conversations qu'on a eues sur les ententes. Comme la première ministre Cochrane l'a dit, il y a une sensibilité culturelle pour les communautés autochtones, mais il y a aussi une sensibilité explicite et garantie par rapport aux communautés linguistiques en situation minoritaire, pour des enfants vivant avec des handicaps, pour différentes réalités culturelles. Ça fait partie des engagements qu'on a signés avec toutes les provinces et territoires qui ont signé, et ce le sera toujours. On va toujours être là pour défendre les communautés linguistiques minoritaires.
OK. Donc, par exemple, l'Ontario, c'est à peu près 4,5-5 % de la population qui est francophone. Fait que, si je vous comprends bien, là, dans la prochaine entente, on va au moins avoir 5 % de place en garderie pour les francophones. Est-ce que vous vous engagez tout de suite à dire ça?
Bien, évidemment, comme vous savez très bien, l'Ontario reste encore à signer comme entente. Mais notre proposition, c'est effectivement d'assurer que les communautés minoritaires linguistiques vont être là pour être représentées, pour être bien accueillies dans les régions où ils ont une présence. C'est essentiel pour nous que des familles francophones à travers le pays puissent envoyer leurs enfants dans des garderies francophones. Ça fait partie des accords qu'on est en train de signer et de proposer en Ontario.
Thank you. We'll take one question on the phone. Opérateur, c'est à vous.
Thank you. Merci. You may press star 1 if you have a question. Vous pouvez appuyer sur étoile 1 si vous avez une question. The first question is from Emily Blake from Cabin Radio. Please go ahead.
Hi, yes, my question is in regard to, it was mentioned that there's going to be support for wages of child care workers in the Northwest Territories, and also education opportunities. And I know that's a big concern for many workers. I'm hoping to get some more details on that.
Excellent. Well, first of all, we recognize that you don't get high-quality, affordable early learning and childcare spaces without making sure you are supporting the professionals who will be delivering that high-quality early learning and childcare, which is why a wage grid and training is part, and professional qualifications are part of it. But perhaps on that, I could pass over to Minister Simpson to speak to that, and perhaps Minister Gould as well. Yeah. Go ahead, Minister Simpson.
Thank you very much. And in the Northwest Territories, we have more jobs than people. So it is difficult to attract people into any industry, and especially early childhood educators. One of the issues we have is that with the same qualifications that makes you an early childhood educator, you can become a junior kindergarten teacher or a support assistant in schools. And there is a big gap between what we are currently paying early childhood educators and those other positions. And so while it's good for the school system that they're attracting those people, it's not good for our early learning and childcare system. And so right now we do have some wage enhancements, but this agreement will allow us to shrink that gap. And it won't happen all at once, but over the years, we are going to see that gap shrink and the wages will be competitive. We are also using this funding to continue supporting programming at Aurora College to train early learning and childcare educators. We're also now making that training available virtually. And as part of our transformation to a polytechnic university, we are going to ensure that people in every community have access to that type of online training. So those are some of the things that we're doing. Thank you.
This is what ends today's press conference. C'est ce qui me fait la conférence de presse d'aujourd'hui.
Merci tout le monde. much good for you.